I stepped out of the house once again. As soon as I reached the yard, the sound stopped. But this time, I was absolutely certain it wasn't just my imagination. Standing there, I realized something important. The noise wasn't coming from the yard or the neighboring house. It was coming from behind the house, from the alley. My heart started racing. In the darkness, I slowly moved forward, feeling my way until I reached the back corner where the water tank is located. From there, it was possible to see the alley. I stood still and tried to observe everything carefully, but there was nothing. Only a deep, empty darkness surrounded the place. Can you hear that sound? It feels like it's coming directly, as if it were emerging from my own reflection. My name is Adresh. I was born and raised in Rangpur, a city in northern Bangladesh. The incident I'm about to share happened in 2010. To many, it may seem like just another ordinary date on the calendar, but for me, that time left a deep mark on my life, like a wound that never truly healed. Back then, I used to tell these events as if they were someone else's story, almost like I was reading from a book. But over time, I realized that certain experiences can completely change the course of our lives. They transform us from within, slowly and silently. Today, I'm no longer the same person who once mocked ghosts or supernatural things. I've come to understand that there is something beyond the darkness, something that cannot be explained by our ordinary logic. I had an older brother. He was about 6 years older than me. At that time, my brother was already married, and there was a new member in the family. He had 2 lovely daughters. The older one had just started going to school, while the younger was still an infant, always in her mother's arms. Our family was quite well organized. My father and mother lived with us. My father had retired from his government job several years earlier. After spending his whole life following a strict work routine, he was now enjoying a long period of rest. He spent most of his day sitting on a mat in the yard or on the veranda. With his glasses lowered slightly on his nose, he had a habit of reading the newspaper carefully, examining every word. And once he finished, he would sit quietly, staring fixedly at the road ahead, perhaps reflecting on the past or simply passing the time. On the other hand, my mother's health was not very good. For years, she had been suffering from various illnesses, sometimes high blood pressure, sometimes diabetes, and at other times breathing problems that kept her from sleeping at night. Because of her condition, almost all the household responsibilities, from cooking to managing the home, fell on my sister-in-law, who handled everything very skillfully. At that time, I had just finished my studies. After completing my student life, I was going through a strange period of unemployment. I was actively looking for a job, sending out CVs here and there, attending interviews, but nothing seemed to work out. To be honest, I spent most of my time at home, either lying down, sitting around, or hanging out with friends to pass the time. Our house was located in an ordinary neighborhood in the city. It wasn't a wealthy or upscale area, but it wasn't poor either. It was a middle-class neighborhood. In front of the house, there was a small road where rickshaws, motorcycles, and pedestrians passed by throughout the day. Street vendors would move along with their carts, selling vegetables, fish, and plastic toys. Street vendors would pass by pushing their carts, loudly calling out to sell their goods, while bicycles rang their bells as they went along. Overall, the neighborhood was lively and full of energy. But right behind our house, there was a place with a very strange atmosphere. There was a narrow alley there. So narrow it couldn't have been more than about 5 feet wide. It ran between the boundary walls of our house and the neighboring one. Almost no one ever used that path. Even during the daytime, there was an unsettling feeling in the air. Occasionally, a kid from the neighborhood might peek in while searching for a cricket ball that had gone missing, or a stray cat could be seen jumping over the wall and escaping through the alley. Aside from that, it was as if no human presence existed there at all. Our house was basically divided into 2 sections. The front part had the living room, my father's bedroom, and my brother and sister-in-law's room. The back part had my room, a storage room, and the area where the water motor was installed. My room was located at the very end of the house, right up against the wall of that narrow alley. And whenever I opened my window, all I could see was the old brick wall, and above it, just a small strip of sky. It wasn't much of a view, but I actually liked that sense of isolation. There was something my father used to mention from time to time. He said that one day, a neighbor told him he had seen someone walking through that narrow alley late at night. According to him, the figure was unusually tall, and the way it walked was very strange, not like a human at all. Whenever my father told that story, he would laugh it off himself. He believed it was probably just a trick of the eyes or the imagination of an older man. I would laugh along with him. To me, it was nothing more than neighborhood gossip or superstition. Honestly, up until that point, I didn't believe in jinns, ghosts, spirits, or shadowy figures. I didn't believe in such things at all. To me, they were nothing more than the imagination of weak-minded people or elements from storybooks. Once, a friend of mine told me very seriously that he had seen something strange in his own room. I laughed right in his face. I told him, "Listen, darkness and a tired mind can make people see things that aren't really there. It's just an illusion." Now, when I think back on those words, I feel sorry for myself. How foolish does someone have to be to deny the unseen world so easily? It was November. In Rangpur, you can really start to feel the winter around that time. Compared to other regions, winter arrives earlier in the northern parts and settles in deeply. But that year, the cold felt different. During the day, when the sun was out, the weather felt quite pleasant. But as evening approached, the air would grow strangely heavy. There was something unsettling in the evening breeze, a chilling sensation that seemed to seep into your bones. When the dry leaves rustled or fell from the trees, it felt as if someone was whispering softly. The nights were unusually silent. More than usual, it felt like the world went to sleep earlier during that November. The day the incident happened was completely ordinary. After finishing the day's routine, I had dinner and sat in the living room watching TV for a while. Then, one by one, everyone went to their rooms to sleep. It wasn't very late, maybe around 11 or 11:30. Soon, everything fell silent. I went to my room, lay down, and within moments, I drifted into a deep sleep. I can't say exactly what time it was, but it must have been around 1 or 1:30 in the night. Suddenly, a knocking sound jolted me awake. For the first few moments, I couldn't even tell whether I was dreaming or actually hearing it. The sound was strange, as if someone was hammering a nail into the wall with something hard. Knock, knock, it repeated in a steady rhythm, with precise pauses in between. I turned from side to side in bed, trying to keep my eyes closed. At first, I told myself it must be some kind of repair work happening next door. But then, almost instantly, my mind pushed back. Who would be working at 1:30 in the middle of the night? And the sound, it didn't feel distant. It felt close, very close. It didn't stop. It kept going, again and again. My room was pitch dark. The only light came faintly through the window, a dim glow from a street lamp or maybe the moon, casting pale shadows across the floor. I slowly sat up in bed. A strange discomfort began to build in my chest. Still, I wasn't afraid yet, not really. I tried to calm myself. Maybe it's nothing, maybe just water dripping, maybe my mind is playing tricks. I got out of bed, slipped my feet into my sandals, and quietly stepped out of my room. I moved carefully, making sure not to wake anyone else in the house. Gently, I opened the door and stepped into the yard. The entire place was swallowed by darkness. And the moment I stepped outside, the sound stopped. I stood there, 1 second, 2 seconds, maybe a full minute. Silence, absolute silence. It was so quiet that I could hear my own breathing. For a moment, I thought maybe it really had just been my imagination. Maybe I had heard something in my half-asleep state. I shook my head and turned back toward my room. But just as I was about to step inside, my heart suddenly jolted. For no clear reason, a strange sense of dread wrapped around me. It felt like something wasn't right, but I couldn't explain what. I went back into my room. I gently closed the door behind me and moved toward the bed. And just as I was about to lie down, the sound came back. This time, louder, clearer than before. And now, at that point, it no longer sounded like hammering a nail. Even today, after all this time, I still can't properly explain that sound. It didn't seem to come from any wall or the ground. It felt as if it was blended into the air itself, as if every particle in the room was vibrating with it all at once. By then, I was fully awake. My heart was pounding harder. I stood up again. This time, it wasn't just irritation anymore. There was a hint of fear. I stepped out of my room once more, and the moment I reached the yard, the sound stopped again. But now, I was certain. This wasn't in my head. Standing there, I realized something clearly. The sound wasn't coming from the yard or the neighboring house. It was coming from behind the house, from that narrow alley. My heartbeat quickened. In the darkness, I carefully felt my way toward the back corner, the spot where the water tank was installed. From there, the alley was visible. I stood still and tried to look around carefully. But there was nothing. Nothing except a deep, empty darkness. The silence was so heavy that a faint ringing began to fill my ears. Then, suddenly, a thought took over my mind. I decided to climb over the wall or go through the back gate and check the alley myself. Maybe someone was making that noise from the other side. Gathering what little courage I had, I moved forward and stepped right into the middle of that narrow alley. And then, I saw it. A sight that still returns to me in nightmares, something that continues to haunt me to this day. Just a few steps in front of me, standing in the darkness, was a woman. Even now, I can't say how long I looked at her. Was it a fraction of a second or an eternity? Because in that moment, time itself seemed to stop existing. All I remember is seeing her. At that very moment, it felt like the ground vanished beneath my feet. She wasn't moving. She wasn't making any sound. It was as if she had already been there, and I had stepped into her domain by mistake. The alley was extremely narrow, with tall walls on both sides. There was no view of the sky above. A damp, moldy smell, like moss that had been rotting for years, filled the air, and in that suffocating darkness, she stood. Her height was completely unnatural, so tall it felt like her head rose beyond the height of the walls. When I looked at her face, my entire body went numb. Yes, you heard that right. She had no face. No nose, no lips, no features at all. And yet, in the middle of that blank surface, there were two eyes, staring directly at me. But it didn't feel like they were just looking. It felt like they were thinking, measuring me, reading me. When my gaze dropped to her hands, I swear I nearly blacked out. Her hands looked burned, charred in a way that made my entire body freeze in terror. I wanted to scream, I wanted to run, but my body wouldn't listen. My heart was pounding so violently it felt like it would burst out of my chest. Is this a hallucination? I tried to convince myself it's just shadows, just your mind playing tricks in the dark. But no matter how much I tried to reason, she didn't move, not even an inch. She just kept staring. In that moment, it felt like every sound in the world had disappeared. All I could hear was the faint sound of my own blinking. Then suddenly, somewhere far away, a dog barked. And in that instant, a desperate instinct to survive took over me. When fear reaches its peak, the human body makes one final attempt to escape. I decided I would turn around and run. With all my strength, I twisted my body to flee. And the moment I turned, it felt like my heart was ripped apart. The woman who had been behind me just a second ago was now right in front of me. She was standing right in front of me, blocking the exact path I had chosen to run. At that point, my mind completely shut down. How was this possible? How did she get there so fast? Or had she never moved at all? Were there two of them? 1,000 questions raced through my head. My breathing turned wild, like a runaway horse, and in that terrifying moment, thoughts of my family flooded in. I shut my eyes tightly, my mother's fragile face, my father's serious expression behind his glasses, my brother's smile, my sister-in-law's care, the laughter of my little nieces, everything flashed before me. It felt like this was the end. With everything I had, I tried to call out the azan. My lips moved, my tongue moved, but no sound came out. Only a faint, broken groan escaped me. Inside my mind, I started calling out to Allah. I tried to recite Ayatul Kursi, but fear scrambled every word. Nothing came out right. It felt like she was moving closer. Even with my eyes closed, I could feel her presence. The pressure in the air changed. The alley felt tighter, smaller, as if the darkness itself was pressing down on me. My entire body was drenched in sweat. Despite the freezing cold of that November night, the sweat felt icy as it ran down my back. At that moment, all I wanted was to collapse onto the ground, to give up, to not see this anymore. And then, suddenly, everything went quiet. The heavy pressure in the air disappeared. The rotten smell vanished. That suffocating feeling gone. Slowly, with fear still gripping me, I opened my eyes. The alley was empty. No one was there. The walls stood just as before. The woman was gone, as if she had dissolved into the air. I didn't waste a single second. With whatever strength I had left, I ran. It felt like something was chasing me from behind, though I didn't dare look back even once. I rushed into my room and slammed the door shut. I slammed the door shut and collapsed onto the bed. My hands and legs were still trembling uncontrollably. I couldn't sleep for even a second that entire night. Every time I closed my eyes, that face appeared right in front of me. The slightest sound made me jump in fear. When dawn finally broke and the Fajr Azan echoed in the distance, I had no strength left in my body. I just let myself fall onto the bed. When I woke up again, it was already afternoon. My head felt like it was about to split open. My whole body ached unbearably. It felt like I was burning with fever. As soon as I opened my eyes, I saw my mother, father, brother, and sister-in-law all standing beside my bed, their faces filled with worry. My sister-in-law was placing a wet cloth on my forehead. My brother was holding my hand. I tried to speak. I wanted to tell them everything, but no words came out. It felt like all the words were tangled inside me. My mind simply couldn't organize those memories into anything I could say. It was as if, even though my body was in that room, my mind was still trapped in that dark alley. That day, they called a doctor, an older man from our neighborhood. He checked my temperature, measured my blood pressure, and shined a light into my eyes. After examining me, he said, "He has a very high fever. It seems like he's been frightened or is in shock. Let him rest." He prescribed sleeping pills and medicine for the fever. After taking them, my body felt slightly drowsy, but the turmoil inside my mind didn't fade. It felt like a heavy stone was pressing down on my chest. Every breath reminded me it was there. And as night began to fall, my condition worsened. From the moment the sun went down, it felt like time itself was slowing down. As darkness gathered outside the window, my heart twisted in fear. My brother noticed I was afraid to be alone. He looked at me and said softly, "Faisal, tonight I'll sleep in your room. You don't have to stay alone." And that night, my brother and I slept in the same room. Seeing my condition, my sister-in-law left the light on before leaving. I lay there with my eyes closed. As the night grew deeper, I started to feel like someone was calling me. A very faint sound, like a whisper, calling my name. But it wasn't coming from inside the room. It felt distant, far away. I pulled the blanket over my face and kept telling myself, everything is fine, everything is fine. But in the days that followed, the same thing kept happening. Daytime would somehow pass, but as soon as evening came, it felt like I couldn't breathe. Sometimes, when I wore headphones and listened to music, I felt like someone was speaking through them, like a voice hidden inside the sound. I used to love reciting poetry, but when I tried recording on my computer, it felt like someone was standing behind me, watching me, listening, waiting to grab me. I would instantly turn around, but no one was there. Just silence. Think about how that would feel, being alone in a quiet room like that. At night, when I climbed the stairs to the rooftop, it felt like someone was walking right behind me. Sometimes, I even felt like dark smoke was rising from my own hands, as if that shadow was walking with me. I couldn't go to the bathroom alone. I couldn't stand on the balcony by myself. Whenever I stepped into the yard, it felt like a cold current was flowing through my entire body. Within a few days, my appearance began to change. I stopped talking as much. I couldn't eat properly. The doctor kept giving me medicine, but nothing worked. At first, the imam from our local mosque came. He recited prayers over water and blew over me. For a short while, I felt better. But as night fell, the horror returned. Then another person came. Then another. Some said it was the evil eye. Others said it was just fear. But whatever had taken hold inside me refused to leave. Deep down, I knew that woman had not let me go. And finally, after searching desperately, my brother found someone. My brother eventually found a religious scholar, someone known for dealing with complex cases involving jinn and spirits. It was said he rarely agreed to visit people, but after my brother pleaded with him and seeing my mother in tears, he finally agreed. The day he came was a Friday. It was midday, the sun blazing outside. But strangely, the moment he stepped into our house, the air inside suddenly felt colder. The man wasn't very old, middle-aged, with a thick beard and coal-lined eyes. There was something intense about his gaze, something deep and unsettling. He looked at me just once, then turned to my father and said, "Your son is not alone. There is a shadow with him." The moment I heard that, my heart pounded hard. Finally, someone understood what I was going through. He said, "We'll begin after the Maghrib prayer." As the Maghrib azan echoed, all the lights in the house were turned on. Everyone gathered in the yard, sitting in a circle. I was placed in the center. The Hujjah sat in front of me. Slowly, he began reciting from the Quran. At first, his voice was calm, steady, controlled. But as time passed, his recitation grew louder, faster, more intense. And that's when I felt it. Something inside my body began to react. It felt like my blood was flowing in reverse, like something inside me was being pulled apart. A crushing pressure built in my chest. Then suddenly, a strange sound came out of my mouth. It wasn't my voice. What happened next, I only came to know later, from my mother, my father, and my sister-in-law. They said my body started twisting unnaturally. My fingers bent in impossible angles. It was as if my body was there, but I was no longer inside it. The Hujjah began reciting even louder. And then, something inside me laughed. A horrifying, inhuman laugh. The kind of sound no one present had ever heard before. Then a deep, heavy voice came from within me, and it said, "This house belongs to us. We've been here for many years. Why are you disturbing us?" The moment those words came out, the Hujjah stopped reciting. He took a deep breath, then spoke in a calm but firm voice. "Silence. Who are you? What do you want? Whoever you are, by the command of Allah, you must leave this place now." The room fell into absolute silence. The only sound was my heavy breathing, and even that no longer felt like my own. The Hujjah began reciting again, this time louder, stronger, more intense. The verses he recited carried a force that felt overwhelming. Suddenly, it felt like my body had been thrown into fire. An unbearable pain surged through me. I began to writhe violently, unable to control myself. I don't know how long it went on, but at some point, It felt like something heavy tore itself out of my body. And everything went dark. When I regained consciousness, it was dawn. The soft light of Fajr had spread across the yard. My body felt incredibly weak, as if I had been beaten and broken from the inside out. The Hujr was still there. He gently placed his hand on my head and said to my father, "They had been living here for many years, especially in the back area. By Allah's mercy, they are gone now. But never let anyone go into that alley again. That place is impure." After that day, I slowly began to recover. The fever faded. My appetite returned. Sleep came back to me at night. But one thing in my life changed forever. I never stepped toward that alley again. I even kept the window facing that direction permanently closed. And even today, on cold November nights, when the wind brushes against the glass, I can't help but feel that woman might still be standing there. I don't know who she was, or why she revealed herself to me. But I do know this. Some things are better left unseen, because once you come face to face with them, your life will never be the same again. That was the most terrifying experience of my life. I know it may sound simple to hear, but only the one who goes through it truly understands. I am Adresh, Allah Hafiz. With those words, Adresh ended his story. Let me know how you felt in the comment section. Now, we move on to our next story. Why do you keep coming? I just want to stay with you. That's not possible. The dead don't belong in this world. Leave, please, just leave. Is it all just an illusion? Or do beings from another world really appear in the blink of an eye? It happened in late January 2018, toward the end of winter. At that time, we had just started doing YouTube. I was handling everything myself, from content creation to production, but we were struggling to come up with ideas that people would actually enjoy. Back then, I used to regularly listen to Butt FM. Inspired by it, I thought, on radio, people tell horror stories. But what if we actually go to haunted places, explore them, and show them to people? And not just that, we would also talk to locals and hear real stories directly from them. When I shared the idea with my friends, they agreed immediately. At that time, there weren't really any content creators doing this kind of thing. So we decided, first, we would explore haunted places within our own district, and if we got a good response, we would expand beyond it. That's when Maman suggested a location. It was about 10 to 12 kilometers from our area, an old zamindar house that had been abandoned for nearly 100 to 200 years. According to local stories, a powerful landlord once lived there long ago, but for unknown reasons, they left the place. People said that even in broad daylight, no one dared to walk past the house alone, let alone after sunset. There were countless rumors. Some claimed they heard children crying. Others said they heard footsteps inside the empty house. After hearing all this, we decided the very next day we would go there. And that's exactly what we did. The following day, a little after 2 p.m., the four of us gathered and set off by car toward the house. We arrived around 3:30 p.m. Let me describe the place. The main building was a two-story structure, and attached to it was a long single-story structure that looked like a row of rooms, most likely used in the past to keep cattle and goats. Behind the house, there was a pathway people used to pass through. A little further straight ahead from the main building stood the kitchen, and beside it, what seemed to be their old bathroom. The entire property was arranged in a square layout. At one end was the main building, on the right side, the cowshed. On the opposite end, the kitchen and bathroom. And on the left side, there used to be a fence, which the locals had later replaced with a wall, sealing off the entire property. There was no proper entrance left to get inside anymore. Now here's something interesting. Right next to that zamindar house, a new house had been built, where a family currently lived. But even though they were so close, they never went near the old house, not even by mistake. When we arrived, the road was completely empty. We started walking around the house, trying to figure out how we could get in. The only side we avoided was the one near the new house, because we were sure there wouldn't be any access from there. No one would knowingly make a way into a place like that. As we reached the side of the cowshed, we noticed something. One of the windows was broken, big enough for someone to easily climb through. We thought maybe people occasionally came here, which is why it was like that. Without overthinking it, we climbed in through that broken window. The moment we entered, a few bats suddenly flew out from inside, rushing past us into the open air. Judging by the condition of the place, it felt like no one had stepped inside for years. As I looked around, one thing caught my attention immediately: the intricate designs carved into the walls. I was genuinely fascinated. We moved past the cowshed and stepped into the courtyard. I stood right in the middle, recording footage of the house from all angles. And then, suddenly, my body felt heavy, unnaturally heavy, as if my weight had increased in an instant. At first, I thought maybe it was because I had played football earlier that morning. Maybe I was just tired from practice earlier. I told myself I probably needed rest, and that's why my body felt so weak all of a sudden. But there's something I should mention. When I was younger, I studied at a Hifz madrasa, and I had a strange issue. I could sense the presence of jinn. Over the years, I had many encounters, different forms, different experiences, even moments where they tried to scare me. There are many stories about that. Maybe I'll share them another day. So there I was, standing in the middle of the courtyard, recording footage of the entire house. Shobuj was filming the exterior of the main building with his phone, while Mammon was checking out the kitchen area. That's when Hrydoy, who was standing near the couch door, called out to me, "Bro, let's get out of here." Why? What happened? I don't like this place. Let's just... Are you crazy? We just got here. Wait, let me get a few more shots. We'll talk to locals, record everything, then leave. No, we don't need to do anything. Let's just go, man. All right, at least tell me what happened. He replied, "When you guys left the couch, I was still inside. Something got stuck to my pants, so I was brushing it off. As I was coming out, I saw something. My chest tightened." "What did you see?" "A black figure, small, like a child. It ran from the kitchen side, passed right behind you, and went straight into the main building, and then it just faded like smoke." At that moment, everything made sense. The heaviness in my body, it wasn't random. But instead of telling him what I was feeling, I hid it. I said, "All right, you go wait at the shop by the road. I'll come." Hrydoy didn't argue anymore. He left the same way we had entered, through the broken window. And yes, I'm repeating that detail on purpose, because it will matter in a moment. Then, I did something selfish. Even after sensing something was wrong, even after hearing what Hrydoy had seen, I didn't tell Mammon or Shobuj anything, because I knew if they found out, they'd get scared, and they wouldn't want to keep filming. At that point, I had become so obsessed with getting footage that I ignored any sense of danger. I told Mammon and Shobuj, "Hrydoy isn't feeling well. He's waiting outside. He told us to keep filming." Even now, I regret that decision deeply. Thankfully, nothing happened to my friends, alhamdulillah. But the consequences, I had to face alone. We continued filming. We took shots of the couch, the kitchen, and the bathroom. When we entered the ground floor of the main building, we saw bats flying around, birds nesting in corners. But again and again, my eyes kept getting drawn to the carvings on the walls, the same intricate patterns I had noticed earlier in the cowshed. The ground floor had two main rooms. On the far left, there was a staircase leading upstairs, but its entrance was blocked. Underneath the stairs, there was a small storage-like space, and its door was slightly open. Without wasting time, Shobuj and I pushed the door open and stepped inside. Mamoon stayed outside, recording. Shobuj held the camera while I stood in front, explaining everything we were seeing. Inside that small room beneath the stairs, we found several large clay pots. One by one, we lifted the lids to check what was inside. And what we saw: old children's toys. Dolls, worn out by time. Among them, there was a large piece of red cloth, maybe something that had once been used to dress those dolls. That discovery only made us more curious. Now we had to go upstairs. No matter what, we started looking for a way to reach the second floor. That's when Shobuj came up with an idea. "I'll lift you guys up one by one," he said. "You climb onto the roof, then pull me." Now, keep in mind, Shobuj was the tallest among us. But there was a problem. He said, "We might be able to get up, but getting down won't be easy. There's thick overgrowth below, basically a jungle." And still, we didn't stop. And jumping down from that height clearly wasn't an option. It was too high. But our curiosity had reached a dangerous level. I said, "Let's just get up first. We'll figure out how to come down later." Right at that moment, something unexpected happened. From the roof of the new house next to the Zaminder mansion, an elderly woman, probably enjoying the evening air before sunset, heard noises coming from our side. She walked toward the back, and the moment she saw us, she shouted, "Hey, who are you? Don't you value your lives?" For a second, I panicked, then I lied. "Auntie, we're from Dhaka. We're just recording some footage of old places. Don't worry, we'll leave soon." After I said that, she just stared at us with a dark, silent expression, and then walked away without another word. The moment she left, we went ahead with our plan. One by one, Shobuj lifted me and Mamoon up. Then we pulled him up afterward. From the cowshed roof, we climbed over the railing and reached the second floor of the main building. Upstairs, the layout was similar. 2 rooms, and on the far left, a staircase leading down. We started recording again. Mamoon was filming with his phone. Shobuj had the main camera, and I was recording with mine. We were capturing the intricate wall carvings, the roots growing out from the walls, everything. And then, it happened. All of us suddenly felt it. Like someone had just run past, right behind me, heading straight toward the stairs. I instantly turned around. No one. To my right was Shobuj. To my left was Mamoon. But I was certain someone had just run. Without thinking, I walked alone toward the staircase. I turned on my phone's flashlight and tried to see through the darkness. Nothing. Just emptiness. By the time we finished recording, it was already past Maghrib. We decided it was time to leave. And that's when the truly strange thing happened. The same window we had used to enter the cowshed. When we went back inside the cowshed to leave, we noticed something chilling. Every single window was sealed shut with thick iron bars. Not just one, all of them. There was no way even a cat could squeeze through. We searched the entire cowshed carefully, desperately, but there wasn't a single opening big enough for a hand to pass through, let alone a person. We couldn't find any way out, so we called Raidoy. "Come show us the way you got out," we said. He came back, with a slight smile on his face, almost amused that we were stuck. But when he stepped inside and tried to show us, he couldn't find the window either. Not a single one. That's when fear truly started to creep in. We looked at each other, silently asking the same question. How are we getting out of it? In the end, we had no choice. Using Shobuj's height, we climbed over the high boundary wall, stepping on his shoulders one by one, and then pulled him up afterward. After that, everything seemed normal again. for about 3 to 5 days. Then, on a cold winter night, I went out to play badminton with one of our senior brothers, Rocky. By the time we were heading back, it was already past 1 a.m. From the market, we had to split ways. Rocky would go right. I had to go left. And that meant walking nearly a kilometer alone. No vehicles would be available at that hour. The road I had to take was a highway, and along that road, there were two places everyone feared. One was a slaughter area where cows and goats were butchered. The other, a graveyard. I was used to being out around 11 p.m. or midnight. But this late, this was different. I was scared, but I refused to let that fear take control. So I bought a packet of biscuits, put on my headphones, blasted music at full volume, turned on my phone's flashlight, and started walking. After walking for a while, just as I reached the slaughter area, I started hearing something. Footsteps. Now, keep this in mind. I had earphones on, music playing at full volume. Even the sound of passing trucks was barely audible to me. But somehow, through that music, I could clearly hear footsteps. That shouldn't have been possible. That's when it hit me. I was holding a packet of biscuits. Maybe something had followed me. Slowly, I dropped 2 biscuits on the road and kept walking. I really wanted to turn around. For a moment, I almost did. But I stopped myself. I knew looking back could make things worse, so I kept walking straight. I told myself, wait for a vehicle. When a truck or bus passes, its headlights will reveal if something is behind me. Because if something is there, its shadow would fall in front of me. And then, right on cue, a truck approached from behind. The headlights flooded the road. I looked carefully. Nothing. No one. And that's when the fear started to grow even stronger. I quickened my pace. But even then, I could still hear it. Those footsteps, breaking through the music in my ear, following me. When I finally reached the graveyard, I whispered Allah's name and ran. I ran as fast as I could toward home. It normally takes 4 to 5 minutes to walk that stretch, but I couldn't take that mental torture anymore. I just ran. When I got home, I didn't tell anyone anything. I ate quietly and went to bed. At that time, my cousin's son, Samit, used to sleep in the same room as me. But after that night, everything changed. I constantly felt like someone was watching me, or following me, or hiding somewhere, listening to me. 2 days later, I was standing on the rooftop, talking to my girlfriend on the phone. And on our rooftop, there were exposed iron rods sticking out from the pillars. The rods were left exposed because the construction wasn't fully finished. While I was talking, suddenly, those iron rods started moving. Not just slightly, but swaying, as if strong wind was hitting them. But here's the terrifying part. The coconut trees and mahogany trees behind my house were completely still. No wind. Nothing else was moving. The fear hit me instantly. And on the other end of the call, my girlfriend felt it too. She kept telling me again and again, "Go downstairs. Please, just go downstairs." But somehow, I gathered a bit of courage and said, "If there's anything here, anything unseen, other than me, then show yourself. I didn't come here to harm you." For 2 or 3 seconds, the rods slowed down. Then suddenly, with a loud, violent metallic sound, they started shaking again, even more aggressively. The entire time, my girlfriend was still on the call. She heard everything. That was it. I screamed and ran downstairs. Right in front of my parents' room, I collapsed. When I regained consciousness, they had splashed water on me. My body was burning with fever, and I fell asleep soon after. But the story doesn't end there. There's still one more twist. Around 2, maybe 2:30 in the middle of the night, I suddenly woke up. My eyes were open, but I couldn't move. Not my hands, not my legs, not even my mouth. I felt nothing in my body, like a living corpse just lying there. And then I saw my room door was closed. But somehow, through that closed door, a small figure entered. A child, wearing black. I couldn't see the face clearly, but it slowly walked toward me. My entire body was drenched in sweat. Tears were streaming down my eyes. At that moment, I truly believed this was my last night alive. My mother's face flashed before my eyes, and I kept thinking, I'm going to leave her behind. Then the child came close, right next to my ear. I shut my eyes tightly, and then I heard it whisper, "How do you survive? I'll find out." And just like that, it passed through the closed door again and disappeared. I screamed out, "Allah!" at the top of my lungs, and then my mother came running. She rushed into my room and froze when she saw me. My entire body was drenched in sweat, as if I had just taken a shower. When I woke up in the morning, physically I felt okay, but something was off. My body felt heavy, unnaturally heavy. Like chains were hanging around my neck, pulling me down. My head was throbbing with a sharp, constant pain. I noticed my mother was getting ready to go somewhere. "Where are you going, Mom?" "I'm going somewhere. Will you come with me?" I hesitated. "I'm not going to any healer or anything like that." The strange part, she never even mentioned where she was taking me. And something even stranger, after I said no, inside my mind, I questioned myself. Why did I say no? I should go. But immediately, another voice inside me responded, "No, you won't go." I went silent for a moment. Then, gathering all the strength I had, I forced myself to say, "I'll get ready." She took me to a local healer, someone very well known in our district. Almost everyone recognized him. But the journey there felt like a battle inside my own body. It was as if something was holding me back, pulling my legs, making every step harder. My strength kept draining. My vision was blurry. I could see, but couldn't process anything. It felt like my mind and body were fighting each other. Somehow, after struggling like that, I reached his house. The healer looked at me once, just once, and "Sit." I sat down. He asked, "What's the problem?" "I'm seeing things blurry. My head hurts badly. My body feels heavy." He cut me off sharply. "I didn't ask you." I froze. Confused, I looked around. There was no one else. Then he pointed straight at me and said, "I'm talking to the one inside you." My heart dropped. I couldn't understand what was happening. Then the healer began reciting something under his breath and blew onto my body. At that moment, my eyes shut completely. Then he pressed hard on the nail of my right little finger, and instantly, I snapped. I pulled my hand away and punched him straight in the head. So hard that he still carries the mark to this day. After that, he placed his hand on my forehead and started reciting something. My eyes closed again, and I lost consciousness. What happened next, I only know from what my mother told me, and I'll tell it exactly the way she described it. After I fainted, the healer made me sit, leaning against the wall. Then he told me to open my eyes, but I refused. Then he asked, "Why are you troubling this boy?" And that's when something answered, through me. "My name is Botterim. I have lived in that house for 134 years. A girl once died there from illness, and after that, everyone abandoned the place. Since then, I've stayed there, taking the form of that little child. A chill ran through everyone in the room. It continued, but they dirtied my place, my home. I will not forgive them. The healer then looked at my mother with a gesture, asking if she knew where I had gone. She shook her head. She had no idea. Then the healer said, "Whatever has happened, has happened. Forgive him. Leave him alone. Don't disturb him anymore." The voice replied, "I will leave, but I will teach him a lesson first. Even killing him would be a lesson. He doesn't fear. I will make him fear." The healer's tone became firm. "Forgiveness is a noble trait. Fear Allah. Leave on your own, or I will be forced to take action." The voice responded coldly, "You can't do anything to me." After that, the healer sprinkled oil and water over my body, reciting powerful prayers. My body started convulsing, twisting, struggling. And then, suddenly, everything stopped. Silence. The healer said calmly, "There's no more problem. The jinn is gone." About 2 hours later, I regained consciousness. I felt lighter, much lighter than before. But my body was in pain, severe pain. We stayed at the healer's house the entire time. My mother sat beside me, waiting for me to wake up. And before I fully recovered, the healer had already said. The healer later said, "The jinn had been inside him since yesterday, but it couldn't fully take control. Do you know why? Because even after carrying it this far, even after sleeping with it, he didn't give in. The jinn knew his death wasn't guaranteed." He also mentioned something important. He doesn't leave jinn alive. Because, according to him, they can come back later and cause even greater harm. Then my mother told him about some strange incidents from my madrasa days. After hearing that, the healer said, "He has strong control over his own nafs, inner self. May Allah protect him." After that, we left his house. And by Allah's mercy, I never faced anything like that again. Now I'm completely fine. And with that, this story ends. If you liked this story, be sure to let us know. And don't forget to share it with your friends. Now, we move on to our next story. At the time this happened, I was in my early 40s. It was winter, the month of December. Around noon, my branch manager suddenly called me into his cabin. I was working at a bank back then. Although loan recovery wasn't part of my department, when the boss calls, you go. When I entered, I saw him sitting there with a worried expression. He said, "Our loan recovery officer, Mr. Naim, didn't come to work today. He's quite sick. But today, there was an important recovery visit scheduled." Then he handed me a file. Last year, our bank approved a large loan for a factory. The problem is, for the past 3 to 4 months, no interest payments have been made. We've called multiple times, sent letters, but there's been no response at all. He paused, then added, "We suspect something might be wrong there. Naim was supposed to visit that factory today. The appointment was already fixed, but now that he's sick, we're stuck." Then he looked straight at me and said, "The financial year is about to end in just a few days. If we miss this visit, it could cause serious issues in our audit report. Can you go there today and check what's going on?" There was no way I could refuse. A direct request from my boss, and that too during financial year-end pressure. Saying no would be like digging my own grave. So without hesitation, I agreed. I quickly wrapped up my work. Around 5 p.m., I left the branch. Time was already tight. Somehow, I managed to catch a local bus and headed toward the location. As the clock ticked, it was almost evening, just 5 minutes before sunset. After getting off at the station, I realized I was still far from my destination. From there, I had another 40 kilometers to travel by bus and then some distance on foot. I had last eaten lunch around 2 p.m. Since then, because of work pressure, I hadn't had a single bite. My stomach was twisting in hunger. Near the station, I spotted a small roadside stall. I stopped, had some egg toast and a cup of hot tea, then lit a cigarette and walked toward the bus stand. When I got on the bus, I couldn't get a window seat. That irritated me a bit. I sat in the middle. The man sitting beside me was a local gentleman, probably around 50 years old, wearing thick-framed glasses. As we started talking, I found out he was a primary school teacher from that area. I asked him about the factory's location. He said, "From where the bus drops you, it's about a 20-minute walk, but the road isn't very good. Be careful." After getting off, he stood with me at the bus stand for a while. There was something strange about him. He kept looking at me, as if he wanted to say something, but was holding back. Finally, I couldn't take it anymore. "Is there something you want to say?" I asked. "Any problem?" He hesitated, looked around. Then, lowering his voice, he said, "Look, I'm telling you this because you're not from around here. There are a lot of stories about that factory." My attention sharpened. He continued, "A few months ago, something serious happened there. The factory was run by two partners, but they got into a terrible dispute. It even turned physical." He paused, then added quietly, "One of those partners didn't have a very clean past." "No, not really," the man continued. "A few years ago, he was one of the most notorious criminals in this area. Extortion, violence, that was his everyday life. Later, he changed his image and became a businessman." He leaned closer and lowered his voice even more. "But here's the strange part. After that fight, the other partner was never seen again." A chill ran down my spine. The criminal partner claims his friend left the business and went abroad, but the villagers don't believe that. They suspect something else. I swallowed hard. Some people say, that night, strange sounds were coming from inside the factory. His words hit me like a warning. I was in an unfamiliar place, and it was getting late. At that moment, I made up my mind. Finish the job as quickly as possible and leave. Earlier, I had already asked the bus conductor about the last return bus. He told me it would leave around 9:30 p.m. I checked the time, 8:10 p.m. Not much time left. Without wasting another second, I hired a small van. For 20 taka, he agreed to take me there quickly. A 15-minute ride was covered in just 10 minutes. He dropped me right in front of the factory gate. The place was isolated, surrounded by large trees. No sign of people nearby. I stepped inside and asked for the manager. The owner wasn't there, but the manager was. I handed him my visiting card and explained the situation about the loan. But what happened next? Completely unexpected. The manager didn't argue, didn't delay. Instead, he politely asked me to sit, offered me tea, and then handed over the full payment of the last 3 months in cash. I was stunned, relieved. I had been mentally prepared for trouble, but everything went too smoothly. Almost unnaturally smooth. I put the money in my bag, took the receipt, and left the factory. By then, it was already around 8:45 p.m. Time was running out. I had to catch that last bus at 9:30. But on the way back, there were no vans, no rickshaws, nothing. With no other option, I started walking toward the bus stand. The road was dirt, surrounded on both sides by dense and tall trees. No people, no sound. I walked faster. After a while, suddenly, the weather began to change. Just moments ago, the sky was clear, but out of nowhere, dark clouds covered everything. A strong wind started blowing, making the trees on both sides sway violently. It felt like nature itself was warning me, something is wrong. Then, a loud crack of thunder, and instantly, All the streetlights went out. Power outage. The night was already close to a moonless phase, and now the entire area sank into absolute darkness. A few distant lights flickered weakly, then died out one by one. I didn't have a proper flashlight. My phone's light was barely enough. In that dim glow, I kept moving forward, trying to stay on the road. And then I felt it. Someone walking behind me. A rustling sound, like heavy footsteps crushing dry leaves. I froze. The sound stopped. Slowly, I turned around. Nothing, just darkness. Only the wind and the eerie whisper of leaves. I told myself it was just my imagination and started walking again. But no, it wasn't. The footsteps returned. Closer this time. I increased my pace. The sound matched it. Faster. Closer. My heart started racing. Inside my bag was a large amount of cash, the loan payment from the factory. A thought hit me. Someone must be following me. A robber. Maybe someone from the factory tipped them off. I clutched my bag tightly against my chest and almost broke into a run. Then, after a few more steps, I saw something ahead. About 20, maybe 30 feet away. Right in the middle of the road, someone was standing there. A figure. In the darkness, the figure looked like nothing more than a shadow standing in the middle of the road. But something was deeply wrong. The wind was raging, trees were swaying violently, yet that shadow didn't move at all. Not even its clothes fluttered. It stood there, completely still, like it was rooted into the ground itself. A cold wave ran through my body. Stopping wasn't an option. If I missed the last bus, I'd be stuck in that haunted place all night. Gathering what little courage I had, I quietly began moving along the edge of the road, reciting a prayer under my breath. My eyes were locked on that figure the entire time. Step by step, I got close, and then, boom! A massive lightning strike tore across the sky. For a split second, everything lit up like daytime. And what I saw in that moment, I was not ready for it. That was no human. Its clothes were torn into ragged strips. Its entire body was covered in raw, rotting flesh, blood stains everywhere, skin peeling like something long dead. But the most horrifying part was its neck. Its head hung at an unnatural angle, like it had been partially severed, as if it had been cut, but not completely detached. Then, a sickening cracking sound. Before I could even react, its head slipped off and dropped to the ground. My blood ran cold. I tried to scream, but no sound came out. I watched in pure terror as that severed head started moving toward me. And the headless body was still standing, blood spraying from the torn neck, arms stretching out toward me, like it wanted to grab me. That was it. I lost control. I turned and ran for my life. I didn't know where I was going. I didn't care. All I knew was I had to get away. The stench of that rotting corpse filled the air, making it impossible to think straight. I stumbled again and again in the darkness, tripping over roots, tearing my clothes on thorny bushes. But I kept running, because stopping was not an option. I lost count of how many times I stumbled. But I didn't stop. I couldn't. Behind me, I could still hear it. Those heavy footsteps. Thud, thud. It felt like that lifeless entity was right behind me, breathing down my neck. I kept running, my lungs burning, my legs barely responding. And then suddenly, a blinding light appeared ahead. Headlights. A vehicle. With whatever strength I had left, I waved my arms desperately, trying to stop it. But I had already lost control. I crashed straight into the front of the vehicle, and everything went black. When I regained consciousness, I was lying on a hospital bed. An IV was running through my arm. Two men in police uniforms were standing beside me. As soon as they saw my eyes open, one of them stepped forward. That's when I found out the vehicle I had collapsed in front of was a police patrol. They were the ones who found me unconscious and brought me to the local health complex. The officer asked me, "What were you doing on that road so late at night, and why were you running like that?" My voice was shaking as I told them everything: the factory visit, collecting the loan money, the sudden blackout, and that thing, that headless corpse. When I finished, the two officers looked at each other. There was no disbelief in their eyes, only something else, something darker, recognition. The older constable finally spoke, his voice low and serious. "Brother, you're very lucky our vehicle was passing that road at that time." He paused, then continued, "That road is cursed." He explained that the factory owner had allegedly murdered his business partner and buried the body somewhere in that forested area. But the body was never found. Over the past few months, many people who passed that road after dark claimed to have seen something. A headless man standing in the middle of the road. Some fainted from fear, and a few even died of heart attacks. "We increased patrols in that area after hearing those reports," he added. "When we found you, there was no one behind you." He stopped for a moment, then said quietly, "But," he continued, "but near your feet, we found something strange. Marks in the mud, but they didn't look like human footprints at all." Nato. "So wali faling kausarin bad, but they didn't look like human footprints at all." He paused, then added in a lower voice, "And there was a smell in the air, the stench of rotting flesh. We smelled it too." After that incident, I returned to my job. Eventually, the bank transferred me to another location. Life moved on, but that night, I never forgot it. Even now, whenever there's a blackout, or when I walk alone through an empty road, it feels like, at any moment, something headless might emerge from the darkness behind me, reaching out, just inches away. Dear listeners, that was the first story. Now let's move on to the second one. This story was also shared with me, and I'll tell it exactly the way it was told. Outside, the sky had completely broken open. Rain poured down relentlessly, like the heavens had no intention of stopping. It slammed against the window so violently it felt as if something outside was desperately trying to break in. Inside the room, darkness. At the center stood an old teakwood table. On top of it, a single candle burned. Its flame flickered wildly with every gust of wind, trembling again and again. And with each flicker, our shadows stretched across the wall, twisting, distorting, as if they were alive, as if they were watching us, smiling. Nasir Chacha shifted uneasily in his chair. Lines of worry creased his forehead. In a low, almost whispering voice, he said, "So, you're saying that entity, that headless presence, it actually belonged to the murdered partner, and it came back for revenge." Mohibja let out a slow breath. A cup of hot tea steamed in his hands. He spoke calmly, "It's possible. In Islam, it's said that when a person dies, their soul does not return to this world. But evil entities, dark beings, they can take human forms. They can scare people, even harm them." He leaned forward slightly. "Especially in cases of unnatural death, those entities take advantage of it. That place might already have been under the influence of something dark, and when that man died, it found its opportunity. It created all of this." Suddenly, Shafiq Bhai looked at us and said, "All right, I've heard your story. Now, I have something to share too." We all exchanged glances. Shafiq Bhai was the quietest among us, the kind of person who rarely spoke, always listening, never telling. Even during gatherings, he mostly stayed silent. So hearing him speak up like this, it instantly caught everyone's attention. Nasir Chacha and I both straightened up. The room grew still. Shafiq Bhai was just about to begin when suddenly the candle in the corner went out. No wind, no warning, just darkness. We all froze. Outside, the sound of heavy rain and distant thunder filled the silence. Inside, the sudden darkness wrapped around us like something alive. A strange fear crept into the room. Gogan Chacha quickly pulled out a lighter. Click, click. The flame sparked. He relit the candle. And the moment the light returned, we all felt it. Something was wrong. Shafiq Bhai's chair was empty. He was gone, just like that. No sound of a door opening. No footsteps. Nothing. The room wasn't big. There was nowhere to hide. The door was bolted from the inside. Nasir Chacha whispered, his voice trembling. "Where's Shafiq? Where did he go? Did he go to the bathroom?" I looked around, confused. But we didn't hear the door open. We waited. 5 minutes. 10 minutes. No sign of him. Mohib Chacha finally spoke, trying to sound normal. "He does this sometimes, disappears suddenly. Maybe he went out to the balcony for a smoke. Maybe we just didn't notice him getting up." He waved his hand dismissively. "Forget it. He'll come back and explain." He leaned forward slightly. "Until then, let me tell you a story." He cleared his throat. Outside, lightning flashed across the sky. For brief moments, the room lit up in stark white, then fell back into flickering shadows. And he began. This story comes from a village near the Sundarbans, in the southern region of Bangladesh, near the border of Bagarhat and Khulna. It's a place as beautiful as it is mysterious. Beside the village flowed a dark river, its waters black as ink. They called it the Kali River. The villagers believed something lived within it. Not just something, 3 sisters. They called them the 3 witches of the Kali River, or simply the 3 sisters. But the elders, they would shake their heads and whisper, "Those aren't spirits. They are something far worse. Servants of evil, powerful, ancient entities." According to legend, many years ago, a widow lived in that village with her 3 daughters. They were said to be unbelievably beautiful, like something out of a dream. But beauty can attract darkness. Some wicked men in the village began watching them with evil intentions. And one night, on a moonless, pitch-black night, the 3 sisters made a choice to protect their honor. They held each other's hands and jumped into the deep, black waters of the Kali River. Their bodies were never found. From that night on, the village was never the same. People believed that something had taken over that river. Dark entities that now wore the faces of the 3 sisters. They could appear human. They could deceive. Sometimes they acted like protectors of the village. But if anyone disrespected them, they became something terrifying, something deadly. Every year, on the new moon night of the month of Mag, the villagers performed a ritual, though they never called it that. They said it was charity, an offering to keep misfortune away. At the riverbank, they would leave clay pots filled with milk, bananas, flattened rice, and jaggery. Alongside it, they placed incense-fragrant smoke rising into the night. But there were strict rules. No artificial light, no torches, no lanterns, and no loud voices, only silence, because they believed if the offering was made with respect, the unseen beings would not cause harm. Mohib Chacha paused. He took a slow sip of his tea. Outside, thunder rumbled again. Then he continued, "Last winter, a young man named Lifan came to visit that village from Dhaka. It was his aunt's house. He actually grew up there, but spent most of his life in the city. Lifan was educated in an English medium school. He didn't believe in ghosts, spirits, or jinn. To him, all of it was nothing more than superstition, rural folklore. His logic was simple: if science can't prove it, it doesn't exist. And that day just happened to be. That night was the full moon night of Mag. The entire village was preparing to go to the riverbank for the offering. Lifan's aunt, Rahima Kala, warned him again and again, "Don't go near the river tonight, Lifan, please. The air feels wrong tonight." The elders have forbidden it. She was a deeply religious woman. She knew the history of that place. But Lifan, he didn't listen. He was adventurous, curious, and a little arrogant. He thought, let's see what kind of nonsense these villagers do in the dark. So, quietly, he followed the elders. He was dressed in jeans, a black jacket, and expensive sneakers, completely out of place in that eerie setting. When he reached the riverbank, it was pitch black. No moon, no stars. Everything hidden behind thick cloud. The villagers stood in silence. One by one, they placed clay pots filled with offerings along the edge of the river. No one spoke. Each person prayed quietly under their breath. The air felt heavy, thick with the scent of incense. And the river was completely still. Like black glass, hidden behind a bush, Lifan watched everything. And to him, it all seemed ridiculous. He smirked. Even in the 21st century, people are still wasting food over imaginary fears. Then, a thought crossed his mind. Why not have a little fun? He pulled out a high-powered rechargeable flashlight from his pocket and aimed it directly at the river. A sharp beam of light cut through the darkness. The black water shimmered violently under it, and for a split second, it felt like something moved beneath the surface. The elders flinched in terror. The village imam, who had been reciting prayers, froze, then whispered urgently, "Who turned on the light? Turn it off, quickly. They will get angry." But Lifan laughed. "And instead of wasting all this food, you could have just given it to the poor." The imam's hands were trembling. His voice shook as he replied, "Son, you don't understand. What have you done?" The imam's voice trembled. "Turn off that light. Leave this place, now." But Lifan didn't listen. Not even for a second. With a look of pure arrogance, he kicked one of the clay pots placed in front of the candle. The pot flew straight into the river. Splash. And in that instant, everything changed. The wind stopped completely. The river, once still, let out a strange bubbling sound, as if something beneath the surface had just awakened. It felt like a deep, hollow sigh rose from under the water. The air grew heavy, thick, and then that smell. A rotten, unbearable stench filled the air, like decaying corpses mixed with damp moss that had been festering for centuries. The elders didn't wait another second. They knew something was wrong. Something had been disturbed. They grabbed Lifan and dragged him back to the village, almost by force. But even then, he was still laughing. To him, it was nothing more than old people being irrationally afraid. When they returned home, Rahima Kala heard everything. She collapsed, holding her head. Sitting on her prayer mat, she began to cry. "What have you done, Lifan? You've disrespected them. They won't spare you. They are vengeful." But Lifan just leaned back on the sofa, completely unfazed. "Aunt, relax. Nothing's going to happen. Let's just have a good dinner. I'm starving." That night, he ate well. Very well. But his peace didn't last long. Deep into the night, when the entire village had fallen asleep, Lifan suddenly woke. Something felt wrong. The usual sounds of insects were gone. No crickets, no wind, just silence. A suffocating, unnatural silence. And then he heard it. Footsteps. Inside his room. The floor was wooden, and the sound was unmistakable. But it wasn't normal footsteps. It sounded wet, as if someone was walking with soaked feet. Step, 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 and along with it, faint, rhythmic sound, like anklets. Jinn, jinn, jinn. Lifan shot upright. His heart started pounding violently. "It's just in my head. It has to be..." He reached for the switch, clicked it. Nothing. Power outage. Outside the window, there was no light, no moon, no star, nothing. But inside the room, there was a strange, dim glow. A pale, unnatural light. And in that faint light, he opened his eyes. And what he saw made his blood run cold. At the foot of his bed, 3 women were standing. They were wearing white saris, completely soaked. Water dripped slowly from the fabric, hitting the floor in a disturbing rhythm. Their long black hair covered their faces entirely. There was no way to see who or what they really were. Then suddenly, the temperature in the room dropped. A freezing cold spread through the air. Lifan felt like his bones were turning to ice from the inside. He tried to scream, "Kala, help me," but no sound came out. His body wouldn't move. No control. No escape. It was like being trapped inside his own body. It felt like sleep paralysis. But deep down, he knew. This was not natural. The 3 figures began to move. Slowly, closer, step by step. With each movement, a foul smell filled the room. The stench of rotting water, decay, and swamp filth. His stomach twisted. The woman in the middle did something worse. She slowly moved her hair aside. And what was underneath was not a human face. There was no skin, only rotting flesh, exposed bone, and darkness. She leaned close to his ear and whispered, "You kicked our food. You disrespected us. Now it's your turn. Come with us." Everything went black. When Lifan woke up, it was morning. His body was burning with fever. His eyes were red like blood. And the strangest part, his entire body was covered in mud, even though he never left the room. On the floor, muddy footprints were scattered everywhere. Rahima Kala panicked. Without wasting time, she called the local imam. The man arrived, looked deeply into Lifan's eyes, and began reciting verses from the Quran. But something was wrong. Lifan started convulsing violently, as if the words were burning him from the inside. The imam stopped, took a deep breath, and said in a heavy voice, "This is not ordinary. He has been touched by a powerful jinn, an ifrit. Those 3 are not what they seem, and they are very angry. You have committed a wrongdoing, and now you must pay for it." The imam's voice was, "If he does not atone, he cannot be saved. Not even medical treatment will work." Lifan's parents had already called from Dhaka, but Rahima Kala didn't have the courage to tell them the truth. By then, Lifan was completely broken. Weak, terrified, ready to do anything to survive. All his pride, his logic, his belief in science was shattered. The Imam looked at him and said, "Tonight, you must go to the riverbank. Alone." He paused. "Take raw milk and perfume with you. You must ask for forgiveness yourself. Only if they show mercy, you will live." Then he warned him, "But listen carefully, Lifan. Do not step into the water. No matter what happens, stay on the shore. Ask for forgiveness. I will pray for you from here." That night, Lifan walked toward the river. His body burned with fever. His legs trembled with every step. In his hand, a bowl of milk. The village was silent. No one dared to come outside. When he reached the riverbank, he stopped, barely able to stand. With a trembling voice, he said, "Please forgive me. I made a mistake. I will never do it again. For the sake of Allah, please forgive me." He bent down to place the bowl on the ground, and then a voice, a familiar voice. "Lifan, my son." His heart froze. It was his mother. Clear, real, impossible. His mother was in Dhaka. So how? Slowly, he looked toward the river, and there, through the thin mist above the dark water, he saw her. A figure standing on the surface of the river. She looked exactly like his mother, the same sari she wore last Eid. She raised her hand, calling, "Come, my son, come to me. They are holding me here. Take me away. I'm in so much pain." Lifan's mind collapsed. His logic disappeared. His fear turned into desperation. In his feverish state, he forgot the Imam's warning. This is how evil deceives people. It attacks where you are weakest. And for Lifan, that weakness was his mother. "Ma!" he screamed and stepped toward the water. One step, then another, believing she was real. But the moment his foot touched the river water, everything changed. The ground beneath him came alive. This wasn't ordinary mud. It felt like thousands of black hands bursting out from below, grabbing his legs, tightening their grip. Before Lifan could even scream, those hands began dragging him down. That's when he realized the figure standing on the water was not his mother. As the mist slowly cleared, the truth revealed itself. 3 horrifying figures, skeletal women. Their eye sockets were empty, yet inside them burned glowing embers. Their rotting skin hung loosely from their faces, and they were laughing. A laugh that was not human. A sound that felt like hell itself celebrating. The air trembled with it. Lifan struggled, desperately trying to break free, but the force pulling him was like a magnet. And the most terrifying part, he wasn't drowning in water. He was sinking into solid ground. First his knees, then his waist. He clawed at the grass on the riverbank. His fingers dug into the dirt, but something beneath him, something unseen, yanked him deeper. His chest sank into the earth. Below the surface, he felt it. Countless cold, slippery hands, gripping his body, squeezing, crushing. A sickening crack echoed, his bones breaking. The pain was unbearable. In his final moment, he looked up at the sky, a moonless night. But to him, it felt like even the sky had turned black. And in that moment, he remembered Allah. At that point, there is no pride, no denial, no doubt. Only truth. From his lips came the words, "La ilaha illallah, Allah save me." But it was too late. When the time for repentance passes, nothing can save you. With one final pull, the three sisters dragged him down. His head disappeared beneath the earth. Gone. Sometime later, when Lifan didn't return, the Imam rushed to the riverbank. And there, he found Lifan, unconscious, half buried in the mud, barely alive. They carried him back home, and when he finally woke up, he told the Imam everything, every detail, every horror. But even after that, he could not be saved. And then, something even more terrifying happened. At the exact spot where Lifan had been found, half buried in the ground, a tree began to grow. Overnight. Yes, in just one night. A small sapling had emerged from the earth. But this was no ordinary tree. Its leaves had a strange, dark reddish color, and from its surface, a thick, sticky liquid kept oozing out like fresh blood. The Imam looked at it once and said with a grave voice, "This is a cursed tree. No one should ever go near it." From that day on, the villagers never went close to it again. Lifan's parents came from Dhaka. They searched, asked questions, tried to understand. But deep down, they already knew. Their son was gone. When they reached Rahima Kala's house, she told them everything, every single detail. They broke down in tears. And Rahima Kala, she still cries to this day. She believes it was her fault. If only I had stopped him that night, maybe none of this would have happened. But the story doesn't end there. The villagers say, on new moon nights, if you listen closely, you can hear something, a faint sound coming from beneath the ground. A voice, Lifan's voice. They say he is still there, deep underground, trapped, suffering in the hands of those entities, with no escape, no salvation. Even after Lifan was buried, strange things kept happening. His grave was found broken, not once, but several times. People thought maybe it was animals, wild creatures digging the ground. But something didn't make sense, because this only happened to Lifan's grave. No other graves nearby were touched.